All right, we'll try this again. So, brother Jason out there disagrees with me on the shape of the Earth and has a video he put together and did some commentary on about basically the seasons prove that the Earth is a globe. Now, I've already actually done my whole spiel already, and then decided to record the audio through the webcam, and it was all whatever. It didn't work. So now I went and had a cookie, and now I can go through this stuff. Now, nothing against Jason, but this is the lies that are told to you from the government that make me very angry. And when they get repeated, it's like it's almost giving these Luciferian devils at NASA some sort of credibility. We're going to take a look at this and why seasons, the equinox, the daylight savings or daylight time zones don't really make a difference. They actually don't work on a globe. They only work correctly on a flat Earth. So he has this video that he has up on Rumble. I'll try and link it in the description about seasons and how the Earth rotates around the sun and how it's all supposed to work. Now, what I want to point out right here in this picture is they say this is how the sunlight works around the sun. And of course, it's flattened out and they're pretending it's a globe. But I want to point out that these are curved lines. Where the sun is, it's a curved line. On a globe, if you take an orange and a flashlight or anything around that's a globe and you shoot a light on it, 50% of that globe has to be lit up. Okay, that is just how it has to be. And we'll point out that we do not actually witness that on Earth. We don't witness anything like that on Earth. There are periods of time where more than 50% are lit up, and there are periods of time when less than 50% of the world is lit up. And the only way that is possible is if the sun is local. And by local, I mean, a few 100,000 feet off the ground. Who knows? Nobody knows. And it's likely that the sun isn't even a physical object in there, and it's more of a projection. Sort of like if you take a snow globe and you take a little pen light and you shine it in the snow globe, the globe gets a little hot spot on it wherever you shine the pen light. That is what appears to be going on with the sun and the firmament above that the stars are set in. That's what it appears. We don't really know. But we can recreate seasons, correct astrological signs in the seasons, correct time zones, and correct everything. And it's been done, and it's actually in an application anybody can download called the Zodiac Sun, Moon, and Stars app, done by David Weiss at Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, which we're going to show here. I want to go back to that, but I suppose it's not going to let me. It's right here. You notice, if you can see, this shaded area is nighttime. More than half of the world is lit up by the sun, which is impossible if the sun is 90 million miles away. If you need to break away from this idea that you're spinning, zooming, careening, like this picture right here through the universe, this is a scientific representation model according to what they say you are living on. Do you feel like you're moving? Jason, do you feel like you're standing on your head? Now, if what they're showing on the screen here in their deal here, this is out of Universe Today too, okay, a NASA thing. If this is accurate, why do the stars never change in the night sky in all recorded history? When God says that those stars are there for signs and for seasons, Did God not know that we are careening through the universe, and at some point those won't be for signs and for seasons? How could they be for signs and for seasons if they're changing all the time, as this model that they say is happening is truly happening? What do we actually witness? We actually witness what the Bible says. The stars never change. The seasons never change. We never have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons, ever. The stars are always in the same place at the same point in time, whatever time of year it is. Always, 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 always. And it's a complete impossibility, especially when you want to talk about Earth tilt and you want to talk about seasons and Earth tilt and 180 days out of the year. The Earth is tilted one way and then it's tilted another way over here. But yet the stars stay the same in the night sky regardless of what the season is. Why can I see the North Star if I'm tilted away from the sun? It doesn't make any sense. Why are the same stars? I look up, there's the stars. 6 months later, I'm looking at a completely different portion of the sky. I should be, according to their model, and yet it's the exact same stars. It's because this is fantasy land, that they have to keep adjusting to make their models work. You do not have to keep adjusting an application that is basically a glorified sundial. This is just a sundial, guys. It's just a sundial on a larger scale. Now, when you want to look at how seasons work, the sun, because it's close to the Earth, travels on a circuit, and I don't know how well these will pick up, but there's 3 rings here. Okay? In this application, or how the sun circuit works, is the middle ring is the red ring, and that's your equator, what it would be equating to on a globe. You'd have the equator, right? And then you have the line closer to the North Pole, which is the summer for the northern hemisphere. You got me. I don't know what else to call it. You all know what I mean. And then you have an outside line that's right over where Australia is. And those lines represent the summertime for those areas. And the sun gradually moves in on a circuit to give us our summertime and our seasons, and gradually moves outward 6 months later to give the southern portion, or whatever you want to call it, the outermost portion of the world, their sun. Once again, I will continually point out that this is how the sun works, where according to where this app is, you have less nighttime than daytime. Okay? Hence your solstices. Okay? Your equinoxes and your solstices and all of that. On a globe, this is impossible. Also, this application does the zodiac signs. Tells you exactly what zodiac. Now, how can a sundial predict exactly what zodiac sign is in any part of the world, and exactly what time it is? And wherever you are in the world, you can set it for your location, and you can look up at the sky and go, yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's the sun at the 2 o'clock point in the sky. And then you can set it to Zurich, right? And call up your buddy in Zurich and say, hey, this is what time my app says. What time do you got? It's going to be the same. It's going to be the right time for them in Zurich. And the sun's going to be in whatever position it's supposed to be for Zurich, right? It's a flat map, though. It works. Okay, now we're into the seasons, as this is demonstrating the seasons. You see right now we're at the equinox because you have 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. And the sun right now is on the outer trek, so now we're giving Australia, right, is in summertime. Now there's more daylight for Australia and the people that are in the outermost part of the world. This application also, for people who want to get it, there's a video of the day also that gives you little flat earth bits and pieces and little quick 5-minute things. That's what Dave Weiss does. Which will show you stuff. Stuff you probably your eyes and your brain already knew before it was filled with gibberish by the Jesuits. All right. So, seasons and equinoxes and all that stuff was figured out a long time ago. It was actually figured out by people thousands of years ago, and all the way up until recently. And say, not your grandparents and like your grandparents' parents were taught flat earth in school. It's only the boomers, slightly before the boomers, pre-World War II, that they started to really push the globe model and the heliocentrism model. So just understand that they're always changing it. And even by the video here that we're going to go through briefly at points, the video has to do all these weird things to say, well, see, the math doesn't work out. So what really happens is this, and we got a computer graphic to show you why the model doesn't quite work and the math doesn't work. But this is the way it works. We're NASA. You can trust us. So the first part, you're talking about time zones. Rumble is not as good of a player. Come on, Rumble.
On this for a short period of time.
Okay, now you notice this is what I was talking about with the light. Okay, you see how the light is exactly 50-50. On a ball, you have to have 50% of the world should be lit up. It should all be lit up exactly the same. Exactly the same. And then the other 50% should be all in nighttime. But that is not what we observe. That is not what we see. That's not what we have ever seen. You cannot, how do you have seasons? And how do you have these day-nighttime cycles with the Earth 50% lit up all the time? It doesn't work.
This is why winter weather is generally...
Another saying it's because of the tilt, 66.6 degrees.
We're in... See, so that's about right.
A response
So now springtime in the southern hemisphere, October.
in the seasons. Earth orbiting satellites measure
23.4
absorbed by
our 23.4 degree tilt.
bright regions on this map show where they devour the most.
Okay.
The Earth doesn't travel in a path around the Sun that returns to its starting point.
Okay, the Earth doesn't travel to a path that returns to its starting point. Do you see what they're saying the Earth does?
So how do we know when a year starts or ends?
This is the way that they say the sun moves, or the Earth moves around the sun. Why are we not burning up over here when we're getting too close to the sun? And what is keeping us from flying away when we're over here? You know, guys, when they do these graphics like this, they never want to put the moon in there next to the Earth. Why? Because the moon would be ripped away as soon as it came that close to the sun. Remember, everything is tenuously held together by gravity.
Called a sidereal year, measures our orbit against the distant stars.
Yeah, they have no idea and can't prove any of that crap. Oh, the distant stars are super distant.
6 hours, 9 minutes, and 10 seconds long. Another possibility is to measure the year against the passing of the seasons. Because of the tilt of the Earth on its axis, the position of
66.6 degrees.
the Sun in the sky changes from day to day throughout the year. If we were to take a picture of the
Okay, what they are describing here is the circuit of the sun that circles over the flat plane and does exactly what we showed you right here. Now, the solstices and the day-night, there's probably an elevation change in there that the sun gets farther away, up higher up in the sky and closer down to the ground. I'm not positive on it. I don't know. But that is what they are describing in the video here. This little weird thing, because their models don't work, because they can't work. The Earth is not a globe.
Sun at noon regularly throughout the year, we would see the sun moving on this path called an analemma. On the days in its orbit when the Earth is at a maximum tilt towards or away from the sun,
On a maximum tilt towards or away, you mean the tilt changes?
the length of the daylight is at a maximum or a minimum. These days are called solstices.
The daylight has to be the same because the sun is supposedly 90 million miles away. The tilt makes no difference. 50% of the Earth has to be lit up by the sun.
And the sun will be at the top left or bottom right of an analemma. On the days when the Earth's tilt is perfectly sideways to the sun, the day and night are equal in length. A tropical year has passed. The Earth
This guy, I'm sorry, but when you're not in this spell mysticism stuff, these science shows that lie so bad are very, very aggravating. Not a shred of evidence for anything that they say. Not a shred. And if you watch something on this like 5 years from now, the information will change because it has to. Because it's all a lie. Somebody will poke a hole in their lie and they'll have to come up with a new lie to cover it.
orbital eccentricity is extreme. The seasons that occur on the far side of the orbit are substantially longer in duration.
See? On the far side of the orbit, the seasons are longer in duration. On the far side of the orbit...
In addition to axial precession.
Axial precession, okay. Well, the reason that you have longer duration is because the sun's moving to the outside of the circle where Antarctica is. And again, you bring up 24-hour daylight and 24-hour nighttime. That doesn't exist, Jason. It doesn't exist. You can go to the Discovery Channel Antarctica clock or Antarctica 24-hour time lapse or whatever you do. Flat Earthers have taken the video and studied the actual video, and it's a cut and paste job where they have about 6 hours of daylight footage and they just cut and paste it. And they use computer graphic effects, but they didn't change the clouds. The clouds are 100% the same, floating through the screen for 24 hours. It's a lie.
There's the axial tilt, the angle that Earth's rotational axis makes with its orbital plane. It is currently about 23.4 degrees and is
Currently about 23.4 degrees. In case you missed it, 90 minus 23.4 equals... it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. The NASA's got the devil tail, devil serpent sting. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. The guy was a Nazi. It's a coincidence. We just happen to be traveling 666,000 miles an hour around in our orbit around the Earth, or around the sun, at a tilt of 66.6 degrees. God is not the author of confusion. Who is the author of confusion? And what is his name? And what is his mark?
declining. This tilt varies from 22.1 degrees to 24.5 degrees.
Oh my! I told you, the variation of the tilt. We can't just have it tilt. People are proving our math wrong, guys. We have to come up with another theory. So they modify what they've been telling people forever. All of a sudden just changed. Oh, new science says, new science theories say that now our Earth tilt moves. Well, how does that affect the calendar? And how does that affect the time? And how does that affect, wouldn't we notice a wobble? Wouldn't we notice that? Wouldn't we notice that in the architecture that we have that's specifically designed to line up with the North Pole, specifically with the North Pole, night after 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 night for thousands of years. You can look through the architecture and it still lines exactly up with the North Pole. But these guys in their little computer graphics want to tell you, oh no, the axis, it moves. You guys are bobbing all over. You guys are bobbing, spinning like a top at 1,000 miles per hour, careening through the universe. Man, bear, pig. Man, bear, pig.
Degrees. It makes one complete tilt and back every 41,000 years. This change
Every 41,000 years. That doesn't sound like a lie. Not at all.
in tilt is directly related to ice ages on Earth.
Prove something, please. Prove something. Never mind. They're not going to prove anything.
The inclination of Earth's orbit drifts up and down relative to the present orbit, with the cycle having a period of about.
You know the reason for all of this complicated stuff? It was never this complicated when I was in school. The reason that they have all of these orbits that don't make sense and they have to manipulate things and say, oh, well, we're weaving and bobbing and weaving in and outside the orbits and the gravity is a little stronger here and a little weaker there and it all works out because of dark matter this and dark matter. You know why? It's because flat earthers have completely destroyed this model. So completely that they feel they have to come in and try and patch it up a little bit and say, oh, now we weeble wobble and we're not doing 1,000 miles at the equator anymore. Now we're doing 1,037.5, provided it is in the summer solstice at 10 a.m. Only during the periods of 2025 to 2028. Do we got it? Does it line up yet?
70,000 years.
Or, here's your alternative. Works perfectly every time, year after year after year after year. You can set the thing to whatever year you want. Works perfect. Flat Earth clock. It's called a sundial. It's a sundial. A thing that wouldn't work on a globe. Wouldn't work on a globe.
And the orbit also moves relative to the orbits of other planets as well.
Prove that. They can't make any of their gravitational models work with more than two bodies in it. Once you throw the moon in there, everything gets all messed up. Once you throw Mars in there, everything gets all messed up. Throw Venus in there, ain't happening. Ain't having it. It's all nonsense, guys. All this crap.
Sun. Instead of being perpendicular, it's tilted
23.4, 66.6. Okay, this particular graphic, they don't lie. Do you notice how the Earth is 50% covered in light and 50% in darkness? This is, again, how it would have to be. But that is not reality. That is not the way the world is. That is only time that the world is like this is during the equinox. Or the winter solstice, right? That's the only time. Or no, equinox. Yeah, it's the equinox.
As the Earth rotates, none of these locations is ever lacking in sunlight. This creates the summer season for the southern hemisphere. Inside the Arctic Circle, the reverse happens. 24 hours of darkness, winter season for the north. As we watch the Earth continue its orbit, these locations is ever lacking in sunlight. This creates the summer season for the southern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, inside the...
How could things ever be lacking in sunlight also just because of a tilt? Because the Earth does spin at 1,000 miles per hour. That's spinning pretty fast.
The Arctic Circle, the reverse...
Come to think of it, that makes no sense. The Earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour, and half of the Earth has to be lit up all the time. And it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour. And you're telling me a tilt is what causes seasons. A tilt is the reason that I go from 110 degrees in the summer to 6 feet of snow, 20 below zero in the wintertime. You're telling me a 66.6, negative 60, we'll just say 23.4, a 20-degree tilt causes that wide of a variation in weather from an object providing heat from 90 million miles away. So you're telling me we would not have seasons if the Earth was perfectly straight up and down with no tilt. So tilting it and the sun having to go an extra 10,000 miles to heat up that portion of the Earth, it goes to wintertime. 90 million miles the sun can do. 90 million miles and 10,000 causes drastic freezing in the northern hemisphere for winter. Stuff makes my brain hurt.
We see the tilt move the north.
Makes my brain hurt.
24.
Again,
Overhead sun.
I'm going to keep pointing this thing out again and again and again to make sure that people get it. Do you notice how half of the Earth is lit up? Yes, because it's a ball. Go grab anything circular, baseball, orange, anything, and a flashlight. It has to be lit up 50%. It doesn't matter if you tilt the orange, you tilt the orange, or if you tilt the apple, or you tilt the golf ball, or the basketball. Doesn't matter. It has to be lit up 50% because that's the way it works. But that does not conform to reality. What is truth? That which conforms to reality. What is reality? What is the reality of what's going on? Maybe I got a better one than this one. We'll just continue using this one. Maybe that one goes too fast. We'll do this one. There's a couple of these different flat earth clocks up there. Once again, this is reality. You notice that there is more daylight time than there is nighttime. Okay? That's how time zones work. If it was 50%, it would not align with what people witness in the sky. And people would figure out that scam right away. But they keep things obfuscated, you could say, with stupid models. And even though we have more communication now than we've ever had in the history of mankind, with the internet and all these things, people don't know. I mean, people communicate with everybody even in video games, with people in other countries and the other side of the globe, and doing all these things. This stuff is easy to test. Okay, this is not 1980 anymore. You know, when I grew up, they could lie to me because I had no way to test. I had no way to check. I had nothing. You guys out there, you have all the means necessary to find out everything you want to know about anything. About anything. And yeah, you're going to run into some total BS. You will. But with discernment and not jumping on everything and doing your due diligence and finding out what's logic and what is truthful and what makes sense, you can find the truth about anything. And guys, this is not reality. This is not reality. This is not reality. What is it? This is not reality. Okay? This is reality. This is reality. This is an old graphic, though. So it's not as good of a representation as what we have now with Dave Weiss's Sun, Moon, Stars, Clock app, whatever. And I don't know. I know I did this in my previous recording where it didn't want to record my audio. But we'll do this again. How do we know that the sun is close and not 90 million miles away? It's called corpuscular rays. Okay, this is the rays that come down when we can see the visible light depending on atmospheric conditions. Now, we look at this one right here. Does it look like the sun is 90 million miles away? You know, basic geometry is you can go from your source, which appears to be right there, and you can follow these lines down to the water. And you have a perfect geometric little parallax or whatever that goes straight back to the source, which does not appear to be 90 million miles away. 150,000 feet, maybe? Maybe even lower. We don't know. Don't know. They send balloons up there, though, and it looks pretty local. We think it's a reflection of some sort of an outside source outside the dome where all the stars are that rotates 24 hours. You know, that dome. That dome that keeps kind of air pressure going. That dome. Because, you know, without that dome, we wouldn't have air pressure if there is actually a vacuum of space outside the dome. I don't think there is a vacuum of space outside the dome, but I don't know. I think there's water outside the dome. Because that's what the Bible says. But who am I? I'm just a Bible thumper. I don't believe any, you know, I'm a weirdo. We're all weirdos here, right? I believe science. So these are corpuscular rays. This is the same sort of effect you would have as if you look at a street light in a rainy night. It's going to look exactly the same. Okay? Is the street light 90 million miles away? No, the street light is like 20 feet off the ground, 10 feet off the ground, whatever. It does these same light rays. You can tell where the source is. You even have a little hot spot. You have a little hot spot where the sun is right above whatever it's right above. It is the hottest. I don't know what to say, guys. Does this look 90 million miles away? Does this one look 90 million miles away? Yeah. Now this one's got the corpuscular rays going up, and that's because the sun never sets. It never sets. In the devil Jesuit NASA system, the sun spins so it sets, and that's how the sun sets, which is silly. The sun just moves farther away, and from your perspective, it looks like it's setting in the horizon. That's it. It just gets too far away. And even if it's really clear out, it'll disappear in the middle of the sky because the light rays cannot make it through the atmosphere to your eyes. But for the most part, it goes down and sets to your perspective, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. It just keeps on trucking. It's nighttime for you. It's daylight for the next guy. And it always goes east to west, even though you're upside down on your head in Australia. More corpuscular rays. Obviously, that's 90 million miles away. I don't know what to tell you, man. Other than when you're sitting on a position, and this is for Jason, if you're sitting on a position and you think that you're right, and the reason that you believe the way that you do, try to disprove it. Okay, so what I personally would do is if I'm like, well, I don't understand how seasons work and how time zones would work on a flat Earth. Well, type that into YouTube. And then 100,000 people will show you exactly how that works on a flat Earth. And they will also say it only works on a flat Earth. Seasons and equinoxes and all that do not work on a heliocentric globe model. They don't. Going back to that thing with a sun that's 90 million miles away is going to light up half the globe all the time, and it doesn't matter how much tilt you put on that thing, it's going to be lit up 50%. And that's not what we witnessed, and that's not what anyone's seen. And yeah, there's apps out here that prove it, that work perfectly with everything. Now, granted, it's an application and it's a model and it could be falsified. But the idea of saying that things could not work on a flat Earth is incorrect. And with that, that's about what I have. Good question, though. That's how the seasons are. I recommend everyone go to DIRTH, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Yeah, DITRH. David Weiss. If you want to get his little app, it's like $1.99 on the Google Store. It's the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by DITRH, Dave Weiss. And go buy that. We got it if I ever needed to use it. And test it out. Try and break it. Also, it includes a little video every single day with a little 5-minute dose of some Flat Earth stuff. So, you know, things like obviously how time zones work are one of the first things that the Flat Earthers kind of figured out, because all of our instrumentation, all of, especially in geometry, when it comes to navigation, all of the navigational instrumentation and everything is based around a flat plane. It is also based around the stars and the signs and the seasons not changing. For instance, a sextant from 6,000 years ago is still going to work the same today as it did back then, because the stars don't change. All right. And with that, guys, we are going to be out of here. More questions, please. More questions, and we'll answer them. We'll answer them.